Welcome to another edition of the Bandwagon podcast. And when doing podcasts, one of the big things is to keep yourself interested, to keep yourself entertained, and always remember one of the reasons why you did this. Um, Recently, I've kind of fell back in love with wrestling again through my son. So there's a few things I've mentioned him quite a lot, and you see these nostalgia pages, especially on like social media and on Twitter, and slowly your algorithm starts going back to the 90s, the 2000s, the 80s. And a large part of my life growing up was watching wrestling. And as part of the algorithm, you start noticing accounts on your Instagram, and all of a sudden, I see the wrestling classic, and I'm going, this guy's smashing it. And then I realized this geezer's an opera. This geezer's from the hood. And just going through some of his Instagram and his post and seeing who he's interviewed. I mean, I'm speechless, but I've managed to kind of track him down, and he kindly agreed to come on to the podcast. So today I have a Canadian legend as well. Okay, so that's also important in terms of your wrestling legacy for those people listening. He's a writer, content creator. He is known as the Wrestling Classic. He runs a podcast, the TWC Show. If there's anything else that I'm missing, Justin, please let me know. But without further ado, welcome to Justin Dhillon.
How's it going? I appreciate it. I always forget. It's so funny because you're also from the UK, and I had someone else interview me, and we took all the stuff out of my brother's like actual office and we put it here. And there's that Winston Churchill poster in the back.
I was gonna ask you that. I was like, yo, is that like inspiration for your articles or
I
anything?
I think it's inspiration from my brother. I think he kept in his office to keep himself motivated. But and you're the second person from the UK to interview me, and the first guy brought it up, and I was like, "Oh wow, it's a." I wonder if he's gonna notice the Winston Churchill.
Yeah, I was gonna bring it. I might just cross that out of my head now when I was gonna bring it up and that. But firstly, how you doing? I know because of the kind of the content that you're doing, it's so competitive. It's so ruthless in terms of a schedule that you've got to try and stay ahead of the game and watch everything and analyze it, not just from the traditional kind of the WWE that we look at, but with AEW and some of the other kind of promotions. How does that take a toll on you in terms of like keeping up?
You know what's so crazy is like long story short, like to really just summarize it, when I started in 2014, like I feel like it wasn't that competitive. Like there was popular people that wrote articles for 4-1 Mania and reviews and stuff like that. Obviously there's the legends, the pioneers of the game, the Dave Meltzers and whatnot of the game, and people that talked about wrestling like Sam Roberts and Peter Rosenberg and were wrestling fans to try to get wrestlers on. And there was, other people were around, and I just feel like it's never been as like maybe I'm wrong because even when I first wanted to start a podcast in 2016, I'm like, there's so many wrestling podcasts, I don't want to start one, but like it's so competitive now, and I feel like there's so many content creators, and we're seeing new reactors every day. We're seeing new people going to shows and creating content and new YouTubers. And it's not a bad thing. I'm actually like I find it motivating to like keep growing and finding different things too. And I think throughout my entire journey as the wrestling classic, I've always had to what's the next thing I'm going to do. Like don't remember, I started as just an Instagram page. I had no intention for it. I was posting pictures. Slowly Instagram allowed you to do videos, etc., etc. Then we're like, okay, we'll write articles. I started my own website that's still active, the wrestlingclassic.com. To by 2021 I was writing articles for Gary V and 1:37 p.m. I got to work with Ryan Satin for a bit, and then interviewing in the pandemic when I got stuck in Vancouver. I never thought it was going to be like a long-term thing, and then fast forward to 2022, I'm on stage with Brian Danielson. I'm interviewing Ric Flair and Bret Hart and Sting and Stone Cold Steve Austin and all the people we grew up watching, plus all the wrestlers of today. Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley, all those type of
MJF.
stars, MJF, Blake Monroe, to like the future, like the Zeta Steels and the Brittany Brooks and the Alonzos of the world. So That's cool. I will always die on the I feel because I've been doing it for so long. I always joke. I'm like I feel like I'm like one of the older guys in the locker room. If this was the locker room, proverbial locker room, like I'm in my Randy Orton, CM Punk stage of my career now. Like so it's okay. I can kind of get away with things. I'm already established. I have a loyal core audience. I'm gonna end this question here, but I just want to point this out because I just did this last night and I was up late. First things first, I don't know if you ever grew up watching Bollywood or anything, but Shah Rukh Khan's son produced a show and it's on Netflix right now, and I like binge watched the whole thing last night, which I probably shouldn't have done because I was up till like 4 a.m. But that being said, at one point, I don't know, like when I got into bed finally and I still wasn't sleeping, I started like actually going through my hidden request DMs. And most of it's like grow your following, or I have this brand I want to do to promote this jewelry and it doesn't exist, or like fake girls trying to DM you and stuff. But I was swifting through and I went all the way to 2022, and that's a lot of DMs. And it made me feel kind of bad because there was all these people that were sending me like really, like real people sending me really nice GMs. Like people I met at Full Gear or at WrestleMania, we can be like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. And I didn't even see their DM and I felt really bad. And I started opening and responding to a lot of them. And they're like from like 2023. They're probably like, where did this guy come from? But I was just like, it sucks I don't get to see it all. But I know that support's out there. So in terms of it being competitive, I feel like I'm at a stage where like I'm there's always room to grow and there's so much more I want to do, and I'm already like what I see feel like I do is I do something and then everybody else gets influenced to not like copy me, but gets influenced to want to do the same thing. And on the flip side, there's people that do things where I get influenced to want to do what they're doing. So it's like I'm in a good spot.
I'm going to ask you a question, but it's a twofold question
Mhm.
within it. Is one is when did the hobby turn into when did it cross the line for it to being almost kind of I won't say a job, but a passion with love, for example?
It is a
And
job to an extent.
yeah, okay,
Yeah,
we're comfortable with the word job. Okay, so it's
we're
gone
good
from
at
a
the job.
hobby into a
Yeah.
job, but then also in terms of building a style, because when you interview somebody who you can obviously tell they're media trained, they're comfortable in answering questions. It makes interviews a lot smoother and a lot easier. But as an interviewer, it really it challenges you in terms of asking really pertinent questions and stuff. And you're dealing with wrestlers who have done a whole career of doing the promos just off just off the cuff, just like that. They can just do it. So how did you deal with the passion into the job, but then also adapting to deal with the content that you're dealing with, being so specialized in the answers?
I genuinely did not like expect it to be anything when I started. Like I didn't go in there with like, and maybe I'd be further along or doing something completely different if I did have a plan at the beginning. Like, hey, like I'm gonna start this Instagram page. I want these many followers. I'm gonna work with. I didn't have any of that because I was working at the bank when I started this. No, when I started this, I was working at a phone booth in a really dead mall, and then started working at the bank. No, I was already at the bank. That's wrong. But I was working at the bank, and and like I had a job and I was moving up in that, and I had my own office and I was giving out loans and I was doing all these things, and this wrestling thing was this thing I started because my ex-girlfriend wanted me to deactivate my Instagram account because she thought I knew too many girls, so I deactivated my personal account. I started a wrestling page because I had all these cool wrestling pictures, blocked all my friends and family because I thought, well, if nobody knows, this can kind of be like wrestling was a form of escapism for me. So this page kind of became a form of escapism to me. And anyone that's followed from 2014 probably feels like they have a better connection with me because at one point it was just an open journal. I would vent on there, I would complain on there, I put a nice picture and talk about my own life on there. I would because I've always loved wrestling. And part of it too was outside of the whole ex-girlfriend thing was I miss connecting with wrestling fans. I was that kid that used to go on forums and troll people, get in debates with people, and I missed that community. In 2014, wrestling isn't and wasn't as popular as it was before, and wasn't as popular as it is right now. It was in this like middle area. Like if you were a wrestling fan, it was the world to you. But like outside of the bubble, like a lot of my friends, they'd watch Rumble, WrestleMania, and they check out the rest of the year. You know what I mean? So it's like I was trying to find that community as well and bring wrestling fans together because I also started like meeting a lot of like closeted wrestling fans. I remember going to school, and I had a journalism class, and it was a Monday, and I told a friend of mine, like we became friends because of our ex-girlfriends in high school, but we just ended up in the same class, and we reconnected, and we're like, oh, we'll sit together and all that type of stuff, right? And I remember telling him like one day, because I was deep in it. This was like summer of CM Punk 2011, 12. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna dip. Just give me the notes. And he's like, why? I'm like, I know it sounds really lame, but I want to go watch Raw. And he was like, and instead of being like, oh, you used to watch that stuff, he also ended up being like the biggest wrestling fan, and we became super close. And like for like the next 2 years until he went to Scotland for law school, we watched every pay-per-view at his house with a group of friends. But I only found that because I mentioned I was a wrestling fan. And I think that's what the page represented too, is like I came out there and said, I'm a normal, cool, regular person. I wear deodorant when I go to shows. I take showers. I don't live in my mom's basement. And I like wrestling too. And it's okay to like wrestling. So that was that for the first part of the question. I think that that was a big part of it for me. And it became a full-time thing. I didn't realize it was something until 2016, and it became a full-time thing around 2018. That's when I was like, if you want me to get into the details a little bit, like I was working at the bank. I didn't want to be there. I had this really cool thing that was growing. I saw opportunity there, but I also found a way that I could take a leave while still getting paid. So I took it and ripped it to California for 6 months and started networking and building these relationships because I started seeing it. Like the wrestlers were following. I went to WrestleMania 32 in 2016. I sold T-shirts before that, and like everybody was wearing T-shirts, and that's when nobody knew what I looked like. And a guy walked out of WrestleCon. He's like, everyone's asking about you. And I'm like, 'cause I'm like, hey, that's my shirt. He's like, oh, you're the guy. Can I take a picture with you? And I was like, no, I don't show my face, but can I take a picture of you wearing this shirt? And I still have that picture of him holding two belts wearing this shirt. And then he's like, everyone's asking about you. And I'm like, who? He's like, oh, just like random people and the wrestlers. They want to know if I was you. And I was like, oh, I gotta own this. I gotta like say my name, put my voice out there, put my face out there. Like this is getting bigger than I thought. So 2000, that was 2016, 2016, I started doing interviews with random like local wrestlers here, the Bollywood Boys, El Phantasmo, Nicole Matthews. I got MJF on because we've been friends since back in the day. And then 2018 is when I really started betting on myself, and I went out there and I started doing this stuff. It's been a rocky road. 2019, I took a step back, got into real estate and development stuff, hated it, made lots of money. It was great. I knew I could stay there and make money, but my heart wasn't in it. Went back to it 2020. The page got taken down for 5.5 months. Had some issues with WWE and AEW, but we figured that all out. Got the page back. Started a podcast with Shad Gaspard. Did 5 episodes. He passed away, unfortunately, after like the fifth or third episode of our actual podcast. Like it was a rocky 2020, and then 2021 came around, and we've been just grinding ever since. To your second part now, interviewing wrestlers. In 2020, when I decided to do interviews, I was like, I'm stuck in Vancouver. I can't go back to California. I was in California early 2020. I skipped going to the Royal Rumble where Edge returned because I had a cousins trip with my guy cousins to go to California in February, and then I was like, I'm gonna go to WrestleMania in Tampa after that. So I'm like, oh, I'll just skip the Rumble, and I didn't even want to go with my younger cousins, my younger guy. Like, Josh, you have to come. You got yada yada. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll come with you guys. And so I canned the Royal Rumble and Edge returned. I was mad about that. So I was like, that's okay.
Is that the one famed for the biggest pop ever? Possibly.
Possibly, but that's when Edge came back. So then I thought like I was mad because I didn't go, but then I went to California in February and I got really sick, and I was talking to a girl from Italy who I met in California the last time I was there, but she was in Australia at this point, and she's like, I can't go to Italy, it's on lockdown. I'm like, oh, it's not gonna come here, it's not that big of a deal, like it's okay. Like she's like, no, Justin, it's pretty bad, dude. You probably have it. And I'm like, no, I'm just sick. I can't leave this bed, but I'm just sick. It's okay. I have the worst immune system. And then I came home from California, and like Tom Hanks had the coronavirus and the world was getting shut down and all this stuff happened. And I was stuck in Vancouver. So to that, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to interview people because I can do that from home. And I didn't have any intention to like, everybody started interviewing people at that point. It became like a thing in 2020.
This podcast started during COVID, during then as well.
Yeah, which is a blessing in disguise because that's what for the first time I was in Toronto for an event, one of the wrestling events, either WWAW, and I remember I was in a car with a bunch of like content creators and like journalists type of people, the media, And we were talking, and one of the girls was like, "Oh, Justin, like I know you because of your interviews." And I'm like, "That's the first time I've ever heard someone say I know you because of your interviews." And like, "Oh,
Mm.
you're not that guy from Instagram." Like, so it was interesting. But I started with just I want to interview people that I know, like people I've already built relationships with,
Mm.
and that's what I started doing. Um, so it made it easy, and I wanted it to be like a conversation, like we're just two friends going into a sandwich shop and or like getting a coffee and chatting. And that's what it was at the beginning. If you look at the first like 15 names of people I interviewed, it's like all people I knew already, and like
Mm.
my interviews with Shad spun off to us doing our own thing, so it was easy. I think one of the first ones where I was like, okay, like, and I didn't even like prep properly. Like I had like bullet point notes, and I'm still kind of like that. I like to wing it. I don't like to
But
be
isn't
too
that
like,
because of that the natural style of asking questions is kind of bullet points to something kind of padded out? I think you lose the flow of a conversation with it in terms of how you're going to go or how you naturally would speak. So I think
yeah.
the essence of a podcast is to kind of have that conversation. But I think if it becomes too scripted, it turns into anything else.
There's a couple of issues that could happen. I try to explain this to people that don't do interviews. If you know, like if you know you have time, breathe. Let it be. If you know you got 45 minutes to an hour, then bullet point it. Don't structure out your. This is the advice I'd give people from my experiences, right? Because sometimes I'll get an interview from WWE and they're like, "You got a strict 15 minutes," right? In that case, I will maybe, and it's a bad habit, look at my questions more so than when I know I have time, because I want to make sure I get everything in. But what the thing that you always want to do, whether you have 15 minutes, whether you have an hour, whether you have 30 minutes, whether you have 2 hours, whatever it is like you don't ever want to not be listening. Like sometimes one of the questions you have might get scrapped because they said something and you want to bounce off of that and be like, wait, now that you mentioned that, let me bring this up. Or you, I was going to ask you this later, but now that you bring that up, let me ask you now. Because if you get too stuck on following a thing, it just feels disgenuine and like you're just trying to get your questions in instead of it you listening and responding. My point is, it is a lot easier to do all of this when you have a longer interview. It is harder when you have 10 minutes or 15 minutes, right? But then that's where it becomes like anything in life, a situation of reps. Like the more you've done it, the more comfortable you are scrapping a question and just going with this one and being like I just interviewed Sting and I'll tell you the truth. Like he did not want to do it. Like he doesn't like doing media, so it had nothing to do with me. He just genuinely doesn't like doing media. Like two of the people representing him were like, no, he just doesn't like doing media. And even when I went up to him, he's like, I just feel like I keep giving the same answers all the time, right? And then we did it, and he was so nice after, and like he popped for me asking about the Macho Man because I was so random, and me asking about something else and Japan and stuff, and it's just like I knew the first initial questions were going to be redundant to him, and they were like, "Oh, you're 25 and never tour this and that," but like it's and there's things I didn't get to ask because I was also like didn't want to take too much of his time stuff, and it's okay, you know what I mean? Like it's okay, like it's nobody knows like what you were gonna ask besides you anyways. So like when
Yeah.
people watch it, they're not being like, well, he forgot to ask about this. Like nobody really knows that. So I just think it is a series of
What was your biggest learning?
how much time you have or like and the thing. But the other thing about the old other thing you want before I want to answer the second part of your questions, because you said something about like um interviewing people and like the second part of your question, I just want to point out that interviewing wrestlers that are younger and currently on the scene sometimes is a lot easier for me than interviewing some of the older wrestlers because they're familiar with who I am in the page because they're on social media like that. It can be a little tough with the older wrestlers. I worked backwards, and this is one thing, and I'm only saying this if you can, like obviously people want to do interviews and they want to jump right into it and start getting people and knock it out of the park. I fortunately worked backwards. I built a brand and established myself doing so many other things that by the time I started doing interviews, the people were already comfortable with me. And sometimes the hardest part is getting a wrestler or anybody, a wrestler, and a celebrity, whatever, comfortable with you. Once it takes reps, and like I'm fortunate that I established something before I started reaching out to people.
Did you recall again two pronged in terms of
Mm-hmm.
when did you start who gave you your first break in terms of like, your big interview, or what you'd class as a big interview? And the second part, which was which interview then did you learn the most out of, to kind of perfect your form? You talked about reps in the gym, but there's a difference between reps and form, isn't it, to make it maximum?
I have a handful of breaks. So the first one is Shad. Like I was explaining, like when we did those, we want to start the podcast. I remember being like, "Let's start your YouTube channel, do all this stuff," and he was more so like, "No, let's do this for you. I believe in you. Like, let's rock and roll." And this is the thing. Like, anytime someone believes in me, it boosts my confidence to want to keep doing it, or like make me feel like I can do it. So that's when I say like break, like I consider these breaks because I don't think I would have continued unless these things happen. So I started doing the casual conversation show in 2020, and that's the show that's mainly been my interviews for the past 5 years. I know now we have TWC Show, just yapping. I've had people on that too, but it's mainly been casual conversations. But prior to casual conversations, before I even did interviews, I remember 2017, like Jinder when he was at the World WWE Championship, and maybe that might have just been like an up and a thing or whatever. But like he was just like they were coming to Vancouver, and he wanted me to like to follow him all day for social media. And WWE kind of pushed back on it. They're like, "No, we don't do that. We don't know him like that. Nobody wants to get in trouble there, right? So no one wants to be the one that says yes, and then next thing you know, they're getting in trouble." But he like was like, "No, F it, like just come meet me. I'm gonna be working out, and we'll do like a live stream from there." And like it went horribly because my video guy for some reason forgot to start recording. And then at the end, he's like, "Oh, you didn't tell me." And I'm like, "Dude," but like just the fact that like Jinder did that though, and like bet on me, and like took it, like was like after it, like we'll do it, and I'll ask for, I'll apologize after type of situation. That was a big deal. Sheamus did the exact same thing, and at the end of 2017, early 2018 was just like, oh, they said no, like F it, just come meet with me. I'm in Vancouver, we'll do it, and then I'll ask for forgiveness after. It was the same thing. So like that's another big one. Then fast forward, I'm starting to do casual conversations, and I'm just interviewing people I know. But then I got Eric Bischoff somehow. And that was just a matter of like going through emails back and forth and just shooting my shot and then it working. And I was like, oh, like I can get people like Eric Bischoff. Like that's cool.
Just with Bischoff, like WCW. How old were
Yeah.
you when that was happening?
So I was like 7, 8 years old, right? Like 6, 7, 8. And but like I don't know. I think most people can relate. Like that's when wrestling is the best to you when you're under 10, maybe up until like you're 13ish.
I
Like but
think
when you're a
I
kid,
think I might have to confess it. I was still at early parts of uni. I was watching it. Like my brother now.
no, I always loved it, but I just feel like
I
the biggest time to enjoy it is when you're a kid, though.
yeah. I had. I'm because he's gonna go mad if I don't. But like my brother, for example, him and his couple of his mates would go into town, into the clubs, and watch Royal Rumble, all the big kind
Yeah,
of PLEs and stuff, right? And then we came back. This is my time when obviously you had the WWF era, and up to Warrior, and a little bit further on after that. Then took a little bit of a gap, and then as the Monday Night Wars were kicking off, that was like the best time. And one time coming back
yeah,
from university, my mate took a random turn off, and he went off to the NEC. A car pulls up next to us. We're blasting out music. They put something out, and he just says, "Oh, look, we've just got some tickets to WWE. They're here." Anyway, there was one. There was one less ticket for the amount of people in the car, but one of the lads had to go back. It was wedding season, so we dropped him off.
yeah,
We go, shall we go? And we're like, fuck it, let's go. Jumped to the car, went there, and all of a sudden we ended up going down and down. It's like one of those stories that nobody believes, but we end up going
yeah,
ringside, not ringside, aisle, as they're walking down the aisle, when they're coming out through the back door.
yeah.
We see Undertaker, Stone Cold, Triple H, and it was like, and I managed to, buy a t-shirt, a knockoff t-shirt on the way out, but that was my experience. Now, fast forward, when Raw came to Birmingham, about a month ago, me, my brother, my son went to that, and the difference in terms of the production, it was like being at Disneyland. What you're seeing, and how smooth and calculated, and see the diversity in there, and how it was run in those two crowds. It was chalk and cheese.
Don't you ever I obviously appreciate everything they're doing now, and obviously they're a major corporate company now with a bazillion sponsors, and they're making money hand over fist. But even like 10 years ago, you can talk about like 2012, 13, 14. Like I still was like, man, you guys don't get it. The old, just simple arenas where it looks smoky and it didn't look so well produced. Like it was well produced, but there was something raw about Raw still was the best. Like
But it's
Nitro and
like
Raw
music,
back in
isn't
those
it?
days had this like actual raw feeling before.
If it's just a stage, if you look at the stage now, like when the wrestlers come in, it looks like a wedding. You know, like if you look at it, if you look at
Yeah.
some of the, I think in the UK we have, we're blessed with really good DJ setups, and they all have like a 10-foot screen,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
all just
yeah.
come out right. But part of Raw, especially when you used to watch it, was like the stages looked like they were the size of a house as they were coming down, and the
Yeah.
Titatron and everything that was on there. And when you hear old music, there's something about hearing that graininess, that raw thing that you were talking about. You could tell some bits were unscripted so badly.
It's just the way they had to produce music back in the day, right? It wasn't as high tech with the computers and the synthesizing and everything now, right? And I think that's the same thing then. It's like the cameras got better, the production got better, television got HD. And that was a big part of it losing that feeling too, is that TV got HD. Like, do you remember when that happened in 2008? And then you're like, oh, I can feel like this feels like a production before it felt like not so much. I think that's part of it. And then also just being a kid. But yeah, I do miss it, and I think, did you get upset about the Ozzy Osbourne line in Birmingham, or did you not care? The Becky Lynch line
Um,
that she got
no,
backlash for.
I know she got a lot of backlash for it. No, because it was part of. I mean, I could understand it if you're part of the family, and you,
Yeah,
but I'm not saying that this is kind of the justification, but it's an entertainment business kind of thing, and knowing what wrestlers, they've gone through private tribulations and they've used it for storylines literally the next day, and that, so in that industry, I understand it why it was used, but if you're looking from the outside in, you could I can see why they take it that way, but I think it's something. It was a cheap shot that all wrestlers do, especially when they go to a new venue. The slag off
yeah,
the crowd.
yeah. You trash the city, you trash the
Yeah.
local sports team, whatever. But
The other thing was they don't say was
isn't it
everyone
so
is
like,
agree
yeah,
when she was calling some part of it, Birmingham. I'm abbreviating a bit of a shithole or something. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Loads of part of the crowd actually agree and they go, "Yeah, you're right."
But that's also like the British humor of being like self-deprecating and being like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, you're right. We do live in a shithole. Like it is
yeah,
crazy over here.
yeah.
But like that being said, I'm like, isn't it so funny how like people will be so quick to be like, oh, wrestling's are real. It's scripted. It's fake. It's this. It's that. Up until they forget that it's like a television show until they want to forget it's a television show and be like, well, they shouldn't say that. Well, what was it? It was fake in a television show 2 seconds ago, but now it's not, and they shouldn't be allowed to say so. Like it's still a TV show. These are people playing characters. They're gonna, you don't watch like, I don't know, a television show, not reality TV, but like a regular like sitcom or a drama, and be like, you don't watch, and be like, well, when they said that, like they shouldn't have said that. No, it's in the sector of the television show. It's the character that said it, and it's just I don't know. I know off topic, like way off topic, but I just find it
No,
funny
go for
being
it.
like when it's when it's you want to talk down about it, it's fake and it's scripted, but then when they do something you want to call out, it's all something real and they shouldn't be doing that. It's like, no, it's the same fake scripted show you were complaining about.
What?
I don't understand. Like,
No, I get it. But was there a storyline or kind of an arc that felt a little bit uncomfortable for you? Because obviously you're in the
I feel
go
I feel like most of them happened when I was a kid, so they kind of flew over my head. Like I can sit here and be like Katie Vick, but like I didn't understand the seriousness of how weird that was until I got older. And granted, I was already like 14, 15 years old at that point, but it's just like most of the like I just interviewed Tori Wilson, right? And a lot of that was her being like, oh, like I know I did these things, and I know, and I'm like, listen, I'm like, for that time, it was okay. I'm like, and I tried to like switch it for her because she was feeling a lot of like, I want to say like a little bit of shame of the way things were back then and what she had to do, but I was also like, hey, that's the way things were back then, and that's what you had to do, and you kind of paid the own. I switched it, and I'm like, hey, do you also kind of know like you were kind of ahead of your time? I'm like, have you ever watched one of these new like award shows or the Met Gala? I'm like, everyone's big shock factor is like, hey, look at me, I'm half naked. Women's empowerment. Like you were doing it for like, you know what I mean? Like it's easy to look back at something and say it was bad, but sometimes like, it was
Yeah,
just the signs of that time.
yeah. I mean, you do get some of the clips that come back up on the algorithm, especially when Vince was talking about the Taliban and or when or when
When he dropped the N word with Booker
yeah, yeah,
T or
yeah.
yeah.
So I think, but at that lens at that time, I think networks were going like, at the end of the
If
day,
I
the
yeah.
viewership's going up. They let a lot of things slide, especially during that Attitude Era.
If you were a sponsor or a network or involved in business with them in any shape or fame way, I mean shape or I don't know, I can't even talk
Yeah.
in any shape or form, um, then like I understand your concerns. I've just been a consumer. I'm just a fan. I look at it as a television show. I don't agree with a lot of the things that happen, but I'm also like I look at whatever happens on the screen is meant to it's scripted. It's you're in. It's like if you go watch Tropical Thunder and Robert Downey Jr. is painting his face black and playing a black character and talking like a black person. Am I supposed to be mad about that because it's in the world of a movie, or am I supposed get what I'm trying to say? Be like it's just this movie. It doesn't mean that Robert Downey Jr. is racist in real life or anything. Like that's the script he was given, and this is who's paying him,
But
and
don't
they
you feel
they
that?
said it'll be okay. So
But don't you
like,
think that filter of giving people the initiative to kind of process that information has kind of been taken away? Like I feel that sometimes in those kind of scenarios, that people are saying, "Oh, here it is. You can't think about it anymore. This is exactly what it is, and this is what they mean." Rather than saying like, this is a film. It's part of a script. He's an actor. There's so many different layers to it. You don't
yeah.
need to be so
Well, that's the
literal.
thing because wrestling, because when you watch a movie or TV show, you're watching a movie TV show. Wrestling does blur the line between real and fake, right? That's always been the thing. I mean, they're more open now to tell you like, hey, this is a TV show. Go watch WWE Unreal. This is what happens backstage. Even Unreal's technically to some extent like they know what they're trying to capture
What
to
was
tell
your
the stories they want to tell.
what was your feeling of Unreal? Because like I watched that first and I thought, was there, how many things did I not know? And I would say probably about 10 to 15% I didn't know, but the
And
majority of it I already knew.
And what's so different from Unreal than all these 24 specials and day ofs and stuff we've been getting for the past 10 years since the network drop? There's not that much of a difference. It's the same stuff. And I remember when everyone was complaining, I talked to someone that pretty high up and prominent figure in the company, featured very heavily polarizing figure, and I messaged him and I was like, well, how do you feel about this little outrage about Unreal? And we agreed on the same part of like, but isn't it funny? It's the same people that have wrestling podcasts. I want to talk about everything that's happening backstage and the rumors and the news and trying to know what's happening and got their sources. They're the ones complaining about this show. You guys have already been doing this for the last 20 years, exposing the business, and you guys are worried about this show because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, now it's breaking into one. It's like what that's it's
I
all the
remember Triple H
smart
once
fans
was
that were upset about it. But it's like that being said, and I was never upset about it because I went into it and it was what I just said to you. I'm like, what makes us any different than any documentary that came out on DVD, any 24 special, any day out because it's on Netflix and they made it see. The only thing that was a major difference is they really took us into the writers' room with Triple H and Bruce Pritchard, and like that was like I don't think they've ever really done that. But it's like,
no.
didn't we already know? Don't people talk about haven't people been blaming creative for things for the past 20 years? Vince is out of touch, creative sucks, this writer sucks, this writer sucks, Brian Gertz sucks. Like you guys are already like talking about it all the
Did you
time. Why not
did
just
you
face it?
feel the did you feel there's the sense out of it was I felt The Rock was a bit of a loser out of it, came out of it kind of his rep a bit damaged, and I
How
felt
do you
because
I
of the outcome of what happened at Mania. But I think the other side of it, what I looked at was, I remember seeing interview with Triple H where he was talking about the type of people who are on social media talking about wrestling, and now there's almost two businesses. There's a whole industry on social media, and there's an industry within the ring. And I was like, oh, now he's trying to he's trying to play it. And I thought, hang on, did we like you gave your true self away at some stage, and now are you trying to be a glorified kind of Dana White?
I got so many comments about everything he said. First things first on The Rock. I will always respect The Rock. I grew up a Rock fan. I'm not as big of a Rock fan as everybody else. I will always be more of an Austin guy than a Rock
I'm an
guy.
Austin guy. I'm an
Yeah,
Austin guy.
yeah. And I like The Rock, but like for me, I'm like, I think a lot of The Rock's nostalgia is based off the fact that he left for so long, and the story is that he was this big star. Where I feel like he became a big star in Hollywood, and it just made him a bigger star in wrestling because he became successful in Hollywood. Like I'm like, The Rock was great, amazing promos, had some great matches. I
All
was
right,
a
here we
Rock
go.
fan.
Wait there, wait there,
I
Justin.
was a wait, I
Wait there,
was a
wait there.
Rock fan
Name
from
me, name
2000 to
me,
2003.
name me five uh kind of best films of The Rock.
Well, two of them. I'm not gonna say three because I didn't really care for WrestleMania 15, but two of them are Rock Austin at WrestleMania. So
No, no, no.
17
I'm
and
on about
19.
films. His
Oh,
films. His
films,
films.
films. Oh, I don't know because I'm not the biggest Rock. I'm not the biggest Rock fan in that sense. So that's kind of what I was gonna do. I do respect the Rock a lot. I'm a Rock fan, but I'm not the biggest Rock fan.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Because
I'll and
I don't think his when I see him as kind of the action star, what people I don't see him as like that. I think he was so charismatic as a wrestler, and the way that he was, because all of his films after that, the Scorpion King, yes, it did really well, but I think the industry needed him to come back because he was so good. And then I think there is a lack of action stars within there, and he played that.
he is really good. I think he did get kind of bland up until he did the final boss thing. Like he needed to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that.
Final
It was
boss. I'm
it
with
was
you.
like 1998 all over again. With like he needs to turn heel. He needs to like because the problem is that with Hollywood and with wrestling, we just started getting Dwayne Johnson everywhere. When The Rock would come back to wrestling, it felt like we were getting the actor. And then when The Rock would be in the movie, I felt like I was just watching The Rock in a movie. So
Great
that's a
point.
problem being a
It's a
wrestling
great
fan,
point.
right? That's a problem being a wrestling fan. So like whether it was Jungle Book or Jumanji, like I'm not Jungle Book, Jumanji or like some other movie, like I just or like Jungle Cruise, I just kept seeing The Rock playing a movie.
Yeah,
Like
that's my fault. Yeah, I
and
think.
then
Yeah,
when he would go into WWE, I'm like, oh, I'm just seeing Hollywood Dwayne Johnson trying to pretend to be The Rock again, hitting the nostalgia points. Like the until he like morphed into the final boss character, it was like, oh, he's finally like, I'm lost in it. I'm finally lost in it. I'm not seeing Dwayne Johnson. I'm lost into whatever this character is. I
so.
will always
Justin,
respect The Rock.
you
I'm a
know,
big. I'm wait. Let me just wrap this up. I'm a
yeah,
big
go on.
believer I'm a big believer of giving everyone their flowers. I didn't even get to give everybody their flowers about big breaks. They gave me like Brian Danielson and Dax and Cash and Malachi because if those three didn't do interviews with me without AEW's permission, I might have never got AEW interviews. But another thing that I always have to give credit for The Rock was like when half of my validity comes from the fact that people also support me that are in the industry. Because when people come look at my paycheck, holy smokes, like all the wrestlers follow him. He must be somebody, right? The Rock followed me, and that was a big deal from like 2016 to 2020. The Rock used to follow me, and to be able to walk around and be like The Rock, LeBron James, and The Weeknd were all following me at one point. They weren't even following WWE's page. I will never not give The Rock credit for like
Yeah,
making me look like a cooler person than I am.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but I really want to touch on that Triple H part you brought up on the documentary before we switch. Um, I do think The Rock and the whole final boss character and how it played out this year really messed things up. It really messed up Cena's heel turn because it could have been a big deal, and it still was a big deal, and it had its moments with Punk and Orton and whatnot. But for the most part, like it kind of bombed because The Rock just disappeared. And to Triple H's point, I think WWE saw what AEW was doing, letting content creators and podcasters and all these people into the room and decided, well, if we want to get rid of this AEW company because they're hype, think about it. If you're WWE right now, you're like, if you want to sign a top star at AEW, you might have to offer them more money than you would have offered them if AEW didn't exist. Because they know they can get paid more over there. But to get them back, you're gonna have to pay them probably double or a little bit more, and they don't want to do that. You know what I mean? If this AEW didn't exist and we don't do that, if we're the only game in town again where you can make money, then we get it whoever we want. Everybody wants to come home. So that all being
Well,
said, I think what happened is they let all of us content, like not me specifically, but they like I'm part of it. They let a lot of the content creators and media people into the WWE stuff, which was super dope. And it was cool for the last couple of years seeing like all these reactors and Twitch streamers and podcasters and YouTubers in these rooms doing media and doing all these cool things. But in the last couple of months, I feel like they know that they're okay and they're starting to pull back again. And you're starting to see people starting to go to AEW shows again in the media. And I'm just putting it out there. It's an interesting look right now. I think it's a mistake. I think WWE should continue to keep letting these people in and do media and stuff like that. They got rid of the press conferences. I get it. They don't want anyone asking the hard questions. They'd rather have their curated questions from the people that are already on payroll. But like, I don't know. I think Triple H is like his narrative. Sometimes I'll always be a fan of him and what he's doing, but his narrative sometimes it's like, hey man, you're gonna start pushing people away with some of the things that are being said and done in the past 4 or 5 months here. Like it's not, you guys open the door to everybody and then shut it on everyone, and it's not gonna. You're gonna piss some people off.
Yeah,
I'm never gonna stop watching, but
yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Like, there was loads of rumors between, obviously there's beef between Triple H and The Rock and that, and I would always lean. I respect what each of them done 100%. You talk about giving flowers. I think what you said about every time I see The Rock, it gives me a vision of my youth, and that's what I'm always trying to cling on when I see it. And so that's why I always try to hang on when he's there, because it's like it always represented a really good thing. But as in life, things kind of move on. So I'll always have it from that side. I was always an Austin guy because I think
yeah.
he was the bit, him and Bret Hart, are the ones who kind of carried. But I just
I
want
just hate. I do hate the revisionist history though. Like that, The Rock was like. I remember they put out like an Attitude Era Volume 1 DVD, and they put The Rock front and center and like Austin on the side of him. And I'm like, that's not how that was. That's not how that era went. Austin should be front and center. Just because you guys think Rock's a bigger star because of Hollywood and all that, like, in the whole idea that it was 1A, 1B, 1A was Austin, 1B was The Rock. Like, no, it wasn't. It was Austin. And
you
then
know
everybody else.
what I was gonna ask
The
you.
Rock was the top guy when Austin left in 2000 because he had the neck surgery. Then The Rock was the guy for sure for 2000. But then even when Austin came back, what did they do? They started booing The Rock. They wanted Austin to the point where Austin turned heel. When Hogan came back, what did they do? They started booing The Rock. They wanted Hogan. What does that say? They like him when nobody else is around. So like, does that make him the top guy?
I was going to ask you something. Obviously, with your inside knowledge, one of the things that came out big was that The Rock had his own writer. In terms of creative, is that common with other wrestlers? Because I found that a bit of unreal, fascinating that he had his own kind of creative team.
No. AEW maybe. There's probably some highly paid wrestlers, and I can almost say that they got people hired that were their own writers that supported their things and came up with that. But in AEW, it's a different beast. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like to succeed in that company, and I'm not saying this. Wrestlers I've interviewed, like on record in interviews, Chris Jericho said it in my interview with them. It's like you won't succeed unless you're pitching ideas, right? In AEW. Like, right? Like if you really want to be featured, you gotta pitch ideas. And if you're not comfortable pitching ideas, and if you're not comfortable going to Tony, pitching your ideas and explaining why and everything, then you're not going to get what you want all the time because you need to pitch ideas. So I think in AEW, there are some higher, I'm not going to say a lot. There's probably like, I can probably count my fingers, wrestlers that do have someone that's like their person, like got their own writers hired, maybe used to work with them in WWE or something. That is a thing. Or they got someone hired because of it. But in WWE, The Rock always has his own team. Whether he's inside wrestling, outside of wrestling, he just has his own team with his production company with $7. Like Brian Gertz, who wrote for the WWE from I think 1999 till like 2009 or 10, maybe like before, and then up until The Rock came back, so 2011 actually, because he wrote for The Rock. When The Rock came back, he is on The Rock's team in general. Like I read his book, like he's The Rock's guy now, and that's the thing. Like a lot of people that worked in WWE that were in major roles, like if a wrestler breaks off in a hall, like there's a guy that works with Cena now, who I'm good friends with, but he was like the head of social media in WWE, like high up in there since like 2014. But he's like Cena's guy now, and that's cool, Like shout out to Brian for being able to leave the WWE bubble, go work with The Rock. Shout out to the other guy to leave the WWE bubble, just go be Cena's guy, work with Cena as he ventures out doing other things. So it's normal, but The Rock has his own team. You know what I'm trying to say? And the thing is, the other guy was a social media guy that works with Cena, and like obviously, like I'm sure like they bounce ideas off each other and stuff. But like Gurwitz was an actual writer on the writing team next to Vince for many years. So like when they say The Rock comes in with a writer, it's because he's an actual writer that actually wrote for this program for many years. So it's like
Yeah.
he does kind of have his own writer who knows how to pitch ideas and also has like enough clout to be like, no, dude, I wrote you guys' program for like 11 years. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah,
Like he
you
was
know,
the head writer for a long period of time, Brian Gertz.
it's like
So,
you know,
so I think he's a. I think The Rock's probably the only one that kind of has that.
I mean, again, what we're describing is it's a soap opera, isn't it? It's a baby face, a good versus a heel, which is a baddie in some let's put it in kind of blatant way. The Cena heel turn when it first happened, oh, it was unbelievable.
I was there. I was so happy.
Oh, there you go, there you go. You've got it right. But I listened to an interview. I think it must have been a couple of weeks later or a month later, where I think the first signs of the Cena the heel wasn't quite working, and it was Bret Hart. He gave an interview or he gave a soundbite, and he says, to be a heel, you've got to do the nasty things. You've got to, where Cena would go and get, a fish hook in the mouth, or you'd get, tie him up around the neck with the wrestling cable or something like that. And Cena was that. It was those kind of antics which was not being portrayed. He was really struggling to get to be fully kind of authenticated as being kind of a heel. I think you're right. I think because of the Rock, it felt a little bit incomplete. Now they're saying the Rock's coming back for Survivor Series. Maybe we might see the I don't know. Is Survivor Series? When's Survivor Series?
November.
Yeah, I saw it yesterday that he's been kind of scheduled for that. Then maybe we might see the complete of that storyline.
I
What's the
don't.
views?
I don't. One, I don't know if we'll ever see The Rock wrestle anytime soon again because he's got too many projects. Two, I don't. I just want to point out from the last thing we're talking about, we also got to remember that Rock is also very high up in WWE now. He's on the board of directors and is best friends with the owner of TKO and all this stuff, and like really old friends with Nick Khan since they were kids. So The Rock's just got a lot of stroke, regardless if he was a writer or not. But I don't ever venture him not coming back and coming out there. But I also I would never put money on it because there's been many times in the past year where like The Rock's coming, he didn't show up. And it's also like the fact that The Rock wasn't involved in WrestleMania this year, and then went on Pat McAfee's show after being like, well, I would have done things differently. Like it was good, but I would have done things differently because like they didn't want to do what he wanted to do, and then he just didn't show up. It seemed like, I don't know. I feel like he's a little bit more sensitive these days or something. I don't know. I just and I don't know if I care to see any follow up with Cena now. I do think I don't know if they knew they were going to turn Cena heel, but they were playing he was losing a lot. He lost the Rumble. He got really serious about winning the Elimination Chamber, and he was going to make it important. And then they hinted at the night of when like he took advantage of Seth curb stomping CM Punk, where like a righteous John Cena he wouldn't take advantage of that. He would go beat up Seth. Like they played into it a little bit in a sense in that way. They dropped the ball because The Rock wasn't. It felt like we were getting like a new NWO thing, and then Rock was never. And I like some Travis Scott songs. There's some songs that I will always F with, but like I don't care for Travis Scott.
Yeah.
And WWE is like very like if you have over 1 million followers in anything, they're gonna like cater to you at this point. It feels like, and especially if they know you're making money, they love other people that make money. Like I remember like this week when like I don't know what I know they probably have a great relationship and it's about and Pat McAfee probably like helped a lot with the ESPN deal and he's probably opened some doors for them. But like that when he was walking out at WrestlePalooza and like Triple H ran up and hugged him, I'm like, oh, it's just two billionaires loving each other. But that being said, I don't. They dropped the ball. Like Raw, like that WrestleMania main event sucked. I was there for that live too. Like Like when Travis Scott walked out, took like 8 minutes to get to the ring. I'm like, what do we do? And where's The Rock? The initial pop was because everyone thought they were getting the Travis Scott Rock remix, and The Rock was gonna come out. Then they realized that was just him, and then
Yeah.
he even bailed on everything and it wasn't committed. Not everybody's gonna be Logan Paul. Not everybody's gonna be committed fully. So it's like I don't know. Like Jelly Roll has been
What do
cool.
you reckon? I mean, obviously, we're just after WrestlePalooza, but and see what happened there. Do you today saw a tweet about from Cena responding to AJ Styles potentially? Who do you think his final match is going to be?
I don't know, but I'm not against it being AJ Styles. It's just I don't like. So some of Cena's best matches were against AJ Styles, without a shadow of a doubt. But I'm not nostalgic for Cena AJ Styles. I think there was a point, like going back to what we were talking about earlier, like when you're a kid and then when you're a teenager, whatever. There was a point, like I think once I hit my 20s, where like I don't have nostalgia for that era yet. Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
don't have
yeah, yeah.
nostalgia for I don't have nostalgia for 2016 yet. There's a generation of kids that do, for sure. I don't. Like, when the wrestlers became people that are around the same age as me, that I could go have a beer with, I became less enamored with them as major stars. Going all the way back to the beginning of this interview, I'll always be more nervous to go up there and interview with Sting or a Stone Cold Steve Austin than I'm ever going to be nervous about interviewing Seth Rollins or Braun Breaker or something. You get what I'm trying to say? Because
Yeah,
now we're
yeah.
all the same age. You're just people. I
Have
understand,
you
and
ever
also
got any? With
maybe I understand too much
interviews?
about the business now. Like I don't know, but if I grew up watching you, then the little kid comes out of me, and then I'm a little bit like I would still be nervous to interview Randy Orton because I also watched Randy Orton when I was like 12, 13,
Yeah,
14 years old. But anybody I watched at like 18, 19, 20 years old, I don't have that same like, oh, like I wouldn't be scared to interview Roman Reigns. I'd do it in a heartbeat.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
a regular dude that I know off camera I could probably have a beer with and chill and eat a steak with, and he's probably a good dude.
Do you ever,
It's
with some
just
of those older wrestlers that you talk about, then have you ever kind of? I get it sometimes when I interview some people in here. Like, do you have to cut things out just to kind of protect them a little bit, or do you have that kind of, or is it kind of always raw and unfiltered? Like, how do you kind of go
I'm
through your own bias?
I don't ever I'm not a got you media guy. I'm not doing it for a headline in the first place. I usually want to talk to them about stuff I want to talk about. Like, look, what you ask? Like, I'll ask them about Macho Man. I'll ask them about moments in their careers. I'll do like a thing. I'm not going to be like, I'm not trying to make them say something controversial. Like, I'm not going to sit there with Bret Hart and be like, please tell me about Bill Goldberg. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get what I'm trying to say? And I think that's more of my respect to them. A lot of them don't want to do it. They usually have to promote something. They usually paid to do something. I've never paid for an interview, but I mean, like, Brett got paid to be at this card show, and they wanted me to interview him at this card show. I'm not going to do anything that's going to make him look bad. Plus, I'm friends with his kids and like the family, and everybody trusts me. You know what I mean? So it's like, and even Brett before, he's like, "No, I trust you." But like, what are some of the questions he asks? Yeah, okay, it's good, it's good. He's like, you know what I'm trying to say? But like, I love this business. I love professional wrestling. I'm never trying to make it look bad. I'm never trying to make anybody look bad. My major goal, if you go back to the beginning, is yes, I want to create a wrestling community. Yes, I wanted to vent on Instagram and escape, but I also was just like the core of it all, and anybody will tell you, the wrestlers will tell you, people that work in the industry tell you, is like I'm positive about professional wrestling. Like there's a lot of things I can sit here and complain about. I could have been on my page complaining about The Rock's involvement and then Cena's heel turn. I could have been complaining about sometimes how AEW is not that great every week. I could be complaining about a lot of things, but I don't because I just want people to watch. I want people to watch wrestling. I want people to enjoy it. I want someone to watch my interview with Ric Flair and not think about the bad things he might have done. I want someone I
I owe
want
Ric Flair a
someone.
lot because we
I
share the
want.
same name,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. There you go.
you know,
I want to interview Bret Hart and people not. I want people to leave there and be like, oh wow, like he and then I've gotten those comments like, oh wow, this is like he actually said something nice about someone. Oh, he's actually not bitter, and it's like because he's not. It's the people that ask him the questions. And let me tell you something about Bret Hart. Bret Hart is just a brutally honest man. If you ask him a question, he's gonna straight shoot you an answer. He's not gonna beat around the bush. He's not gonna, politically correct media train answer the questions and tell you exactly how we feel. And everybody loves honesty. until they get offended. And that's who Brett is. He's just gonna be honest. And it's and like people will blame Brett, but like even with me, I forget I interviewed someone recently. I forget who. Karrion Kross. I interviewed Karrion Kross. And they're like, oh, like all this guy does is talk about WWE. And then I even have to be like, no, but I'm the one that asked him about it. You know, like he's not just talking about WWE because he wants to and he keeps bringing it up. I asked him about it. Like, stop giving the wrestlers all the flack. Sometimes it's the interviewer. You just see the clips on Instagram, you see the clips on TikTok, you just see the part of the wrestling talking, you just read the headline because a lot of people in this generation don't like to read anymore. You just see the headline, you don't read the entire interview or the entire article, you don't go listen to the interview to get things in context. You just read the little tweet that someone quoted the negative part and puts out there, and you think that's that. You watch a minute clip, you read one little tweet. There's a lot more to it, and I do think we're in an era now, especially where you can monetize Facebook, you can monetize Twitter, you can monetize YouTube. Everyone's just trying to rage bait, clickbait, get people to view the stuff so they can make some money. And I'm not against people making money. But if you truly loved this business, you wouldn't be trying to tear it down all the time. You know, this is a whole term. Like, I remember at one point, I didn't even know what clout was when people started saying I was fucking looking for clout all the time. I'm like, dude, went? So you guys don't know all these other words, but you picked up a dictionary one day. Then I realized some like streamer or like rapper said it and it became a word. But like it's the same thing with everyone calling everyone a grifter. But grifters only exist because the grifters exist. They actually exist. Grifter is like a term that's used in politics all the time, but now it's used in wrestling all the time because there are people that make money shitting on one of the other companies. And that's their gig. And I can't even hate on it because they're making money and I want everybody to make money. But it just sucks that like we're in an era now where that's the mindset for everyone. I'm going to talk shit about AEW because I know it gets me views and I'm going to make money. I'm going to talk shit about WWE because I know it'll get me views and I know it's going to make me money. I'm going to listen to this interview and just put the headline out where Brett said, Goldberg didn't give me any money. Well, what's the context of that? Did the interviewer ask him how he feels about Goldberg? Does he still like who set him up for that? Right? And I'm just using Brett as an example. That goes to all the wrestlers. And that's why a lot of wrestlers, for anyone that does interviews out there, a lot of wrestlers today, old school wrestlers, none of them want to come on your show or do interviews. None of them want to do media. Cody Rhodes said it on his own show. It's like sometimes you go in there with a smoking gun and then you're worried that you might say something that gets twisted and turned. Everyone's scared because the wrestling, Paul Heyman said, nobody hates wrestling more than the wrestling fans themselves. Like, and that's why I try to always be different. It's like I just wanted to show love. I want to be positive about it. I want to just have fun conversations with people. I'm not trying to get a headline. I'm not trying to, be the most. I used to joke around and not even joke around. I used to say I don't believe it that much anymore because I feel like I've been allowed in a little bit and I've helped people that are in there a little bit. But I'm like, yo, like the only thing I know about wrestling is I don't know anything at all.
Yeah,
like I actually don't. Everybody wants to know everything. Everyone wants to feel like they're on top of it. I know everything. I remember getting excited for somebody coming back because I decided to stop reading the dirt sheets for like 10 years. Like especially on Instagram, like now there's all the news sites came from Twitter and everything onto Instagram too, but there wasn't any like news pages on Instagram. That's why I chose Instagram and not Twitter. Because I didn't like things getting spoiled for me. I was the kid that went on BackstageWrestling.com and called the hotline and learned that the NWO was signed. But as I got older, I'm like, oh, it's ruining wrestling. Like I don't want to know anything that's happening. Yeah. And I got excited that somebody came out. And my comment section was like, well, Dave Meltzer reported this like 2 weeks ago. Like, how do you not know? Like, oh my God, the rumors. I wasn't looking for it. I don't care. I just want to watch the wrestling and be surprised. The wrestling was the best to me when I was a kid during the Monday Night Wars. And it was easier to do it even at an older age back in those days because we had less internet. You had to subscribe to a newsletter, call the hotline, or get the magazines to even know if anything was going on. There was no just quickly going on a computer or your phone and going, Fightful.com. Oh, look who just re-signed. Like, there's none of that. Oh, there's contract negotiations. There's none of that unless you went looking for it. And now it hits you even if you're not looking for it.
Yeah, I find that
it's ruined wrestling.
On Instagram, I find it's like it's not knowing about wrestling. It's not knowing about wrestling. It's about knowing how it makes you feel. So I always remember when I was younger about seeing Rick Rude, Rick Model, Martel, Mr. Perfect, and then going up and then knowing how I felt about Owen Hart. That really finished me. Like it was so bad. And then Brian Pillman, and then knowing about with obviously with how Warrior passed, and then there was just then you start seeing some of the heroes that you loved as a kid. You know, they start passing around. Then obviously what's happened with Hulk Hogan, and you're trying to explain to people like enjoy the moment because you don't know what how long some of these guys are going to be around, or a story or injury, that can actually change. When we saw Stone Cold, we never thought we would never not see him, or even with Bret Hart. And then something happens, and then that's it. They can't do it.
You never know, right?
You
We saw
never know.
The people booed, and I get it. They're more in a more liberal state when you're in California, but the people booed Hogan when he walked out there in January. And I'm not saying they didn't have any right to. You have all the right to boo him if you want to boo him, and dislike him if you want to dislike him. But it's also pretty ironic that when he passed away, now you guys are chanting his name. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, it just stick to it.
Isn't that just people? That's just fickle. Anyway, that industry is built. No, sorry, that's a bit wrong. I think in general, people have fickle opinions on a lot of things. It's the bandwagon. People jump on and off it. It does whenever they want.
We've seen it happen in all industries where someone is being hounded on for years about so many things, and they die, and then they're a martyr, or like we miss them, or they're Michael Jackson for years. I still don't know if he did it or didn't do it, or what the situation is. But I just remember.
No, you'll get there, Justin. They'll say, "Oh, he was great at it." I don't support him. I support his music. That's what I'm
trying to say. You know what I mean? But then for the last 10 years of this guy's life, he was just being accused of things, and like his whole reputation.
He's been dead for 20 years and he's still getting new cases.
And that happens a lot, right? People will have this revisionist history, or if they lived through it, or they were a kid or a teenager back then, there's like this like enamoration with Elvis Presley, and then decades later a new generation comes, they're like, what, he met that girl when she was 13, like, you know what I mean? Like, they'll tarnish people's names 20 years after they die. People are gonna like who they like, people are gonna hate who they hate, and it's weird. I don't know. I get what you're saying though. Like, people don't know what they have until it's gone. Those people that were probably hated Bray Wyatt and thought he was too storyline character driven for wrestling, and I don't even know what he's saying, he just rambles, and then he passed away, and now everybody loves Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt was the man. But it's just, what I'm trying to say, like, it's a lot of, you're right, people are fickle. And then they'll switch on you even after you're dead. They'll switch on you even after you're dead if they want to. Like, there's no loyalty in this game of life.
I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you.
That sounds so negative. I want to be so positive. Nobody's loyal to anybody.
No, I'm gonna finish on 2 questions of that, because I know I want to kind of get this in.
There's one thing you asked I didn't get to answer, and you said, is there like an interview where you feel like you really learned something, or you whatever? I just want to say, when I interviewed Stone Cold Steve Austin, which was an opportunity that came out of nowhere, like, they emailed me to come there to that event, and they wanted me to be like an influence at that event, and I just shot my shot. I'm like, well, I'm down to come. I just need you guys to, one, pay me, but also, like, I want to interview Stone Cold. And they were like, it's like, we're saying yes, but really it's up to him on the day of, like, how he feels, like, if he wants to or not, right? And I remember going there, and we got to go in a little bit earlier because we were media, and we got to do a meet and greet with him earlier, and like, he was so nice. He popped my jersey, shook his hand. He got super serious, because I was like, I'm the one that wants to interview you after, if I can, for like 10 minutes, right? And I don't even know why I said 10 minutes. I'm just like, for 10 minutes, or like, I was nervous, and he was like, shook my hand, then he got super serious, like, looked into my little beady eyes, and was like, stay sober, because we're at his brewery. And I was like, yeah, I'll stay sober. You know what I mean? And then we sat down, and like, we went upstairs to his office, and it was loud in there, so I was already worried about that. I kept messing with my mic. I forgot to fix the settings. And he sat down, and he just got ready. And then I sat down and I got ready. And I was like, you know what? And I've been told this a million times, like, Justin, you will be grumpy, you'll be tired, you'll be hungry, whatever. That camera goes on, like, you're good. I don't know what it is. Like, you're fine. Like, sat down, camera went on, and just didn't have my questions on me. Just wung it 10 minutes. And he put me over at the end. He's like, oh, yeah, you know what, kid, you got a future in this business. Kind of got him emotional bringing up Bret Hart. But what I learned from that was a couple of things. Is one, that I need to believe in myself more. So I'm good at what I do. And I don't think I ever thought I was good at what I did. Like, a million people can tell me I'm good at something and compliment me, and I will still do something after, be like, was that okay? It's just who I am. And two, that like, I was so like, I need like 30 minutes with everybody. I need like an hour or something, but I'm like, I can get a lot out of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I can get a lot out of 5 minutes. If you know what you're doing, you can make the most out of the amount of time you get. It's like the whole wrestling thing that wrestlers always tell me, like they always tell you to like maximize your minutes, like make the most of the minutes they give you if they're not going to give you a ton. I feel like interviewing Stone Cold Steve Austin taught me that. So if I know that I only have 15 minutes, and if WWE is like, hey, we're only going to be a 15-minute interview, or AEW is like, hey, man, we only got you like a 10-minute thing, I know how to maximize those minutes, and I have the confidence that I can because I did it with Stone Cold, and he told me I have a future in this business, kid, and you can't get any higher than that. So I just want to put that out there.
I'm gonna ask you the last two questions. One, I see it all the time, so I'm gonna shoot my shot on this one, which is I need your Mount Rushmore.
Okay, so like this is my thing, right? I can give you the generic Mount Rushmore if I was just talking about wrestling, who I think should be on there. Like all biases aside, like me not being like, because I don't even like John Cena. I'm not a John Cena fan. I respect the hell out of John Cena. I would have a beer with John Cena and talk to him about life and wrestling and pick his brain about that, like work ethic and stuff. Because I do, if I ran a wrestling company, I would hire John Cena because I think he has a tremendous work ethic. I just never been a fan of the character since he turned into like a Marine and started being all a motivational speaker and crap. Like I just never, it just wasn't for me. I was a teenager. It was corny. It was for the kids. Something happened in 2007 that changed the industry forever, and Cena was the flag bearer of a PG era. It wasn't for me. But that being said, if I was going to do an unbiased one, I'm going to give you both. Unbiased on that Mount Rushmore, Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now that fourth one is really, that's where it gets hard. It depends when you grew up. If you're an older person, you might be sitting there being like, it has to be Bruno Sammartino, it has to be Andre. If you're grew up a WCW fan, you might say it's Ric Flair. If you grew up just a WWF fan, you might say it's The Undertaker. If you're one of those people that loves a revisionist history, you might say it's The Rock. Or you might say Shawn Michaels because he's the greatest wrestler of all time. But that fourth one's hard. But Cena, Austin, and Hogan belong on that Mount Rushmore unbiasedly. If I was going to do one unbiasedly, like just of the wrestling industry, I don't know who that fourth person is. It might be Flair, it might be Andre, it might be Bruno, might be, who knows, maybe it's Roman for the future. I don't know. But that's that. My bias Mount Rushmore, Macho Man Randy Savage, probably my favorite wrestler of all time. That's my guy. Bret the Hitman Hart, because I'm Canadian, and I was like, as crazy as Macho was, I thought he was unreal. Bret Hart was a superhero I thought it could be like. He was like, if Macho Man was like Superman that could fly with superpowers and shit, or like Spider-Man with webs and whatever, Bret Hart was Batman. Like you could be Batman. You just need lots of money. You know what I mean? Bret was achievable. So that's two. Three, I would still, this is tough because like, this is not my top four wrestlers. If it was my top four wrestlers, I would say Shawn and Taker. But even on my Mount Rushmore, I'd have to put Stone Cold because like I've never liked the top babyface guy of any era. Like I've never been a Hogan guy. I was a Savage guy. I was never a Cena guy. I like Orton and Punk and Edge. I was never, you know what I mean? I've always hated the Mickey Mouse. I like Goofy and Donald Duck and never, I didn't like Cyclops. I liked Wolverine. I didn't like Superman. I liked Batman and Spider-Man. And you know what I'm trying to say? Like I'm just that guy.
I got you.
Austin's the only top guy that was chosen that I loved. And maybe because he was anti-established, the anti-hero of that era. So Austin. And then fourth, maybe Taker for me personally. It was probably Savage, Bret, Taker, Austin, maybe for myself. It's hard for me to put any, like, even if you ask me my favorite wrestlers of all time, outside of the women, because the women's wrestling has thrived in the past 10, 15 years. So, like, it's easy for me to be like, Trish, Sasha Banks, Lita, Charlotte. Like, it's hard for me to do that on the men's side. It's hard for me to put, like,
I got
Rollins,
three. I got
Roman
three
Reigns, and those guys in there. Like, it's hard. Yeah, go ahead.
I think I got Bret, Stone Cold, Undertaker, and I got, because it's biased, I got Warrior.
Okay, yeah.
Because I knew, because he was the one that, the superhero thing that you were talking about, Macho Man, that was it for me.
Warrior was your Savage. I'm like, that's what it is for. I mean, I just found Savage so.
Oh, his interviews now. I love him more now. I love Macho Man more now than I did back then because because he died early and because like he went so reclusive near the end of it, I just find him so interesting. You know what I mean? Like, I love this guy as a kid. I loved him when he could, like, I obviously, like, that's what tells you, like, you watched wrestling as a kid with, like, different lenses. Because
obviously my Savage as a kid, like I have a brother who was born in 1981, right? So I grew up with all the tapes of the first WrestleMania, Superstars, all these Raw Wars and Nitros and stuff. So I did see 80s Savage, obviously. Like I saw all the WrestleManias up to WrestleMania 9, watch them religiously, the first SummerSlam, Survivor Series, all these TNTs and Superstars. So I did grow up on 80s Savage, even though I'm not an 80s kid. But my first Savage was the Savage that was like doing commentary in WWF and then jumped ship and was in WCW. It was all colorful. And I'm always like, yo, I didn't, like, as a kid, I didn't know that he could barely move in 1999. I was still hyped to see him because he was so over as a character. I don't give a shit if he could wrestle or not.
Mm.
And now I look back, I'm like, oh, he's pretty bad in 1999. He couldn't really do anything with his knees. But I didn't see that as a kid. I was just like, this guy's the man. He's so cool. When he's on my TV screen, I'm entertained. And it's
Yeah.
probably the same thing with you for Warrior, because Warrior gets all this backlash. But watching with a kid's lens, you're like, no, this guy's a man. He's crazy. I love it. I shake the ropes. I want to paint my face like the Warrior.
His
That's
body.
why I
It
say
was.
watching.
It was a. I remember we in the UK we had a massive sticker book. Trading cards. We had. It was huge, and I think the wrestling ones were some of the first ones the kids at primary school where I was at that we were trading. And Warrior, there was a one where it's his common pose where he's looking forward, hair kind of mullet back, green and yellow, and it's just his body is just unbelievable. Just saying like
That goes back to me saying like you're never gonna watch wrestling like when you watch it as a kid. When you have no judgment on it, you don't know what it is. You're not focusing on.
my granddad used to watch recorded videos VHS and think that they were real every time. Like the WWE, like and my granddad is like he'd be as they throw it, he'd be
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like you.
I love hearing stories about people watching wrestling with their parents or grandparents.
Oh, because
they were also. That's what I'm trying to say. Especially if you're like coming from an immigrant family, if you're Indian, Italian,
I've got to tell you this,
or like or something, because immigrant parents and grandparents that like I always joke around till this day. I'm like, my biggest following is America. My second biggest is India. Then it goes United Kingdom, Canada, etc., etc. But I'm like, it's because they still think it's real in India.
My granddad, I used to live. There's a football team in Handsworth where I was born in called West Bromwich Albion, and they had a massive stadium there. My granddad was convinced that all the wrestling used to happen there. One day, he called me and my brother, and he goes, "Come on!" And he could barely walk. He was bad, and he wanted to take his cane and go and knock out Vince McMahon because Vince McMahon was interfering in Stone Cold's matches.
Yeah.
Like he believed it that much. He was in it, and he was like, "That's it. I'm going for him. I'm going for him."
One of the coolest things I've got to do with the Wrestling Classic is like I've got to like expand my world and like you grow up somewhere, your friends are the friends you grew up with, and like some people like those are the same friends their entire life. Maybe they make some new friends at work stuff, but like I still have my friends I grew up with and I love them to death, but like I have friends all over the world now. Like I can go to like New York. I got a buddy that will pick me up from the airport, hang out with me. I can go to Toronto or wherever, right? So I was going to Arizona. I got free tickets to the Rumble in 2019, and I got cool with this kid named Samit because he used to make these videos of his dad reacting to wrestling. And his dad, I don't know if you've ever seen the Wrestling Dad, right? So he would react to wrestling, and I loved it. So I was like, "Yo, let me start reposting this. Get your dad to rep my shit." And we got really cool, and I love it because his dad genuinely still, like to an extent, thinks this is like real, and I love that like innocence of it all. Because like I said, you only have that when you're a kid, or you have it when you're like just older and like you don't get it, and like once again, if you might be an immigrant or foreign or something, and like it's like, whoa, this is real, right? Like, and he still had that innocence, and I loved it. And I remember I went down to Arizona and they're like, no, just stay at our house, like whatever. And it was great. It was like another Desi house. I was waking up eating porter, like the regular deal, right? So it was nice. But like I took them. I remember like I was like, okay, let's go. We'll go meet Jinder. And I texted Jinder. I was like, hey, like I'm with this my friend Sami and his dad's at wrestling. And Jinder like loved those videos too. He's like, oh, yeah, bring him, like come to the hotel, come say what's up, no problem, right? So we go over there and this guy like and like just like only you and I and anyone that's like either from like I feel like Italians are similar to Indians, or like if you're like Middle Eastern or whatever, you're gonna understand this. Like it's just our cultures of like whatever. Like he packed these guys like matai and some like protein stuff to eat. Like you know what I mean? He took it there for Jinder guys, and the Jinder and like Harv, one of the Bollywood boys, came down and like like they're both like Justin, like we want to die, like we can't eat the stuff, and the Harvey's like, okay, maybe I'll have one, like don't worry, like uncle brought it and stuff, and he was so excited to meet them, and we took pictures, and we're like walking out of the hotel, and like the dad's like stopping Elias, like only things you can do if you're old or a kid, like if you're in the middle area, then it's like you're looking weird, like he's just having the time of his life, and then we got in the car, and he's like calling his friends like in India, like yelling on the phone, being like, guess who I just met, like yada yada yada, and I'm like, I love that.
The
And then,
best.
honestly, if there's one thing I can say that I taken probably the most joy and pride out of this entire wrestling classic is like being able to give other people experiences and being able, like, I just took one of my really good friends that who I convinced to start doing the podcast with me because I needed a co-host here in Vancouver, and there's not many, like, so I'm like, I convinced him to do it. So it took me like 5 years to convince him to like come on camera because he's got a real life and kids and a job, and he's like, I don't know, what if I say something stupid? I'm like, just don't, nobody cares, I'll just do it. I'm like, everybody's on the internet now. And like he started doing it with me, and then he went with me to SummerSlam because we had the opportunity to on location, and he's never seen Cena live somehow, and like he's been to WWE events when they've been here, they just never seen Cena live, and the fact that I was able to give him that experience to like see Cena make his entrance live, like I die for those moments more than me achieving, like that stuff's cooler to me than me interviewing Sting, because I don't know, I'm weird about the stuff I do for myself,
Yeah.
but I love giving other people stuff. And I don't know. I don't know. If I could wrap up like my biggest thing that I'm happy about, like, is being able, if there's anybody, like, I don't want to, I remember like when I was young, I wanted to do something that would be remembered for forever. Like that was always a weird thing about me. I don't know. I don't even care if I'm remembered forever from everybody. I just hope there's people out there that remember me because I got to do something cool for them. They're like, oh yeah, Justin, like he did that thing for me that one time. That was really cool. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
no, no. It's what you're doing. It's mad, and like just seeing some of your content, it relives it for me, and I know I appreciate that. I wanted to say, but I want to just ask the final question.
mhm,
I'm going to change it for you. So
mhm.
I ask every guest, which is there a bandwagon that they want to jump on or jump off, or is there something that they want to get on their chest? But I want to change it for you. Is there a storyline that you'd love to rewatch or remake again?
Well, that's tough. That's tougher than the bandwagon one.
Okay, go for what
Um,
you want to go. Go for what you
no,
want
no,
to
I want to do that. I want to do that because the bandwagon one's nothing. Is not going to be anything crazy. I would just say like, are those things I used to really love that I don't any. Not that I don't. I just like I Canadian. I grew up watching hockey. I loved hockey. I would get a hockey jersey from every town I went to. I played street hockey and all that stuff with my friends. Collected hockey cards. Was a big Colorado Avalanche fan. Was a big Vancouver Canucks fan. I just don't feel like I have a team, and it's hard supporting anything when you don't feel like you have a team. So I wish I could jump on a bandwagon of a team so I could love it again. But that's a bandwagon question. Because it's like probably the same thing with football, like soccer. Right? Like
I got
unless
you.
you have a team, like it's hard to like support. Like I don't have a team that I'm really invested in
Well, I'm
for
gonna
me to
say you're a
care.
Man United fan because I'm a Man United fan.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
Yeah,
adopt
there you
you.
go. There
Yeah,
you go. And I know, and I grew up around everybody playing soccer, so I know my that too. But it's just like that's a bandwagon side of things. That I
yeah.
wish I whatever. But the storyline thing, it's just like I'm thinking of current stuff, and I'm thinking about like live through again, like the NWO, like just being a kid and that happening with Hogan and Sting, and at the same time Savage and DDP, like that whole thing was cool. And unless you lived it, like I don't think you could really experience it. I wish I could like I wish I was alive for when the makeup was exploded so I could tell people Savage is right, Hogan is wrong. Like he's making moves on this man's woman. He's paranoid for the right reason. That's something that I would love to do. Obviously, I know a little bit more about the behind the scenes of it all, but like I really wish we could have finished CM Punk and MJF off properly. I don't think it got the conclusion that it deserved. And I know they tried, but then he got in trouble and then suspended, and then they tried again and he got hurt, and then they were kind of leading to it again, and then he got fired. But like, I will always be a CM Punk fan. That's when I talk about my top 10 favorite wrestlers, the only like two wrestlers from like a more modern era that are in my top 10 for men is Punk and Orton. Have you, like, you know what I mean? Like otherwise it's all
I love
OGs.
Punk.
It's
I
just
love him. I
yeah,
love him.
it's just Punk and Orton that are in my top 10 out of like newer day. Otherwise it's all like Piper and Savage and Hogan, and not Hogan, but like a bunch of these people. But I don't know. And then MJF's like we'll always, whether we're close or we drifted or we're friends or we're not friends, like
Do you
we're
reckon
tied
he'll
to
ever
each
come to
other.
WWE?
I think he will. I mean, he's 26. I can tell you from a conversation I had with someone in his camp. I once said he has all the time in the world to get there. Like he's only like 26, 27. It's okay. Like stack your cash, do what you need to. He's add enough stock to his name. He's already doing things in Hollywood. They're always gonna want him. Unless he does something that gets him like canceled or something. Like they're always gonna want him. So, like he's got time. But I'll always have that bond with MJF. We're always, whether he likes it or not, or is annoyed of hitting it, we're tied to each other because I'm part of his story. That promo he cut's true. He was in his dorm room. He was scrolling on Instagram. He was on my page. He did drive home and tell his dad he wanted to be a wrestler and drop out of school. His dad said, "You got 4 years because that's what it would take you to finish school. You got 4 years to make this wrestling happen," and he did. But I'm part of that beginning of the story. That wasn't just for a promo or a made up story. He commented on my page saying, "One day you're gonna post me on your page, and I'm gonna be a WWE superstar," with really bad grammar, so you know it was real. So, so it's like we'll always say. So I just and then so it's a bias for me to want to see the Punk MJF thing play out. Maybe well in WWE one day. Who knows? Maybe. But that's a big one. I don't know. I just like if I could in the weirdest way, like if you asked me to really narrow it down, I just wish I could live through 1997 again, but just be a little bit older too, because I feel like that was the best year in wrestling.
Maybe
Because you
have some
had the
time to reflect on it and just do a show on it on yours. Just think about it,
yeah.
just think about what it would be.
I think 1997 is just the best year though. Think about it. Think about 1997. What was happening? It was before the Monday Night Wars really popped off. What was happening? NWO was cooking on the other side. You had the whole Sting Hogan thing going on where he just kept dropping the ceiling and popping up. You had DDP and Savage and whatnot. Then on the other side, you had the rise of Stone Cold. He was getting more popular. You had the Hart Foundation. You had Shawn Michaels on drugs, which was just like if you didn't live, if you didn't live through Shawn Michaels on drugs as a fan, you don't even know Shawn Michaels because he was just a different beast then.
He was wired.
As a human being, I don't know him personally as a human being. People probably hated him, but as a fan, it's like the whole theory of like, man, Eminem doesn't make music like Eminem on drugs, though. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying I want him to be on drugs. I'm glad he's healthy. I'm glad he's doing better in his life, but you don't know Eminem unless you were there for Eminem on drugs. Like,
We know Marshall Mathers.
yeah, so it's like so I don't know. I don't let me ask you, like, what would you think is your favorite year of professional wrestling watching as a fan? Or like that you can go back and watch and be like, wow, this is so entertaining.
I did like the ministry storyline.
So
Um,
99?
yeah, I did like that. I thought when
Yeah.
how Stone Cold came as the kind of the savior, but I did enjoy that. But I also did I liked the kind of the rise of DX.
Yeah.
That was good.
The original DX or like the army?
Original DX.
Yeah. So we're going back to 1997. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
year.
yeah. So yeah,
It's the year, man.
maybe yeah. All right, 97 to 99 will be probably.
Kane made his debut in
Yeah,
97.
yeah, yeah,
97 was just a wild. Brett got screwed. It just was a wild year of
yeah,
wrestling.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Hart Foundation as a Canadian was so cool to me. Like, and then
Oh,
Nitro
man.
was just fun. You got the Nitro girls, you had Heenan guys on commentary. It's just 90s. I don't know. If you
Wild.
ask me like what year are you the most nostalgic for, it's 1997. And I was only like 6. But like the whole thing with me watching it was just like excited for it. And
I was
like
about
once again, I used
14, 15. I remember
yeah, my
sitting
brother
on.
my brother used to tape everything. So I would just watch these Nitros and Raws. Oh, and I know I'm a promo character guy. This is why I never try to get into like the whole greatest wrestling match or like like my favorite match is Austin Brett WrestleMania 13. Don't get me wrong, and probably like Warrior Savage WrestleMania 7 are probably the two matches I probably watched the most. Like as in like how many times have I watched them? But like I love promos and I love characters and I love this. I'm a kid that grew up on Bollywood movies.
Yeah, man.
I love the soap opera. I love the drama. Like I'm good, man. I love
Just
a good wrestling match as much as the next person, but
no,
I'm
it was
here for the story.
no,
I'm here for the
amazing.
story.
And I just want to thank you for taking us down kind of memory lane. And
I'm
for me,
sorry. I'm such a yapper. I come on people's shows and I talk so much.
no, this is the whole point. People ain't there to listen to me. They want to listen to you, and like I really
Yeah.
appreciate for what you're doing, and for you to be. And I think you talked about getting your flowers, and I really hope people watch this or listen to this and actually take the time and have a look at what you've been doing in that scene. And it's amazing, you know, from a journalistic point, the way you ask your questions, there's so many lessons in terms of what you've done from there, and I'll always support you from that one. And I wish to do this again, sometime in the future. You've been fantastic in terms of taking your time the way you've been with me. I've learned a lot from you, but you're doing one of the funnest jobs in the world, and and it keeps you young at heart. And I've kind of fallen back in love with it again, through with my son, and I feel a little bit guilty that I kind of went away from it. So I just want to say a big thank you.
No, thank you, and I love that. I love that, like, you're like watching with your son, and it's part of his life too. I've seen that. I've gotten a lot. I read a DM like that yesterday, actually. Me and my son are really big fans of your page. Like, he got me back into it. We both love the stuff you do. And I'm like, yo, that's so cool. Like, it's just to be able to get people back into wrestling, or to hear like they got back into it with their son or their daughter, and now their kids like wrestling, and it just, that's what. Once again, I just wanted people to watch wrestling. I wanted people to tune in. I wanted people to understand why we loved it when we were growing up, and why we should still always love and appreciate and respect it. I just think, and then lastly, because I can say this to you, I can't say it to a lot of people that are interviewing me. I didn't realize, and I've made posts about it multiple times. I've talked about it at least 4 times in the last 2 years, because I only realized, really, I knew, I always knew, but I feel like I only realized really in 2024 when I walked into a WWE media junket and I looked around and I was the only Indian guy in there doing media, that like it has dawned on me that, and I don't know why I didn't, because I think it's because I've always socialized with everybody of every race, and I grew up in Canada, and I don't know, maybe that's part of it. I don't know what it is. I treat everybody the same, but like I now understand that I am a representation for brown boys doing shit in wrestling.
Yeah, man.
And then even like the last WrestleMania I went to, there was 3 of us. 2 of the, Sandhu from the UK who did the MMA stuff.
Yeah.
And Gravir from he also did TNT Sports, but now they have their own thing, Screen Off Script. Shout out to those boys. But we went to Shake Shack after night 2 of WrestleMania, after the press thing, and we were sitting there. I was like, that's crazy. I'm like, you should just be me. Now there's 3 of us. We're growing. So it's cool that you're doing this.
The nation of domination is coming.
Yeah, we're growing, man. We got more of us Punjabis and Indians. And when I say like brown people too, like I'm trying to like, because I mean for like the Middle Easterns, the Indians, the Pakistanis, anybody that's like that has that same sort of, like, I know we're all different, but that same sort of culture and values. Like, us doing stuff like this is not what our parents wanted us to do. So like we're breaking, like going into being a kid in a brown household and being like, I'm going to be a broadcast journalist, wasn't like why do you want to be a doctor, an engineer, or like a job that actually pays you, like go work for the CP rail or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool, man. And they get, even in the industry, man, like I'll always be happy to see guys like Jinder and the Bollywood boys, and there's so many new like Punjabi Indian wrestlers that you can see on Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling and just around. And it's just cool, man. It's cool. And that documentary on Gama is coming out soon, so everybody should check that out. But I don't know. I just want to say I appreciate that you're doing this, and I think you should keep doing it and keep putting a spotlight in wrestling. There can be more of us.
Thank you very much. Cheers, mate. All the best.
Yeah, all the best. See ya.